Hello, I'm David Currie and this is the Scottish Football Podcast. All the news, views and analysis you need on Thursday the 4th of December. And what about last night, eh?
First time Yang takes a great touch, blocked by McCracken, still alive and in! For Maida, who heads it into the net, and Celtic lead on Martin O'Neill's swan song.
Martin O'Neill bows out on a high with a lap of honour after a farewell win at Celtic Park.
Thomas tries the shot, it's a good one. Oh, the goalkeeper spilled it! Kilmarnock have scored! Unbelievable scenes!
Hearts are punished for failing to kill off Killie. And there's late drama at Pittodrie and Tannadice.
85 minutes, we're still playing here and it's going on to 99 minutes. And lads, it's in the back of the net! It's a third and equaliser. It's quite incredible.
By Rami to salvage a point for Rangers. Right footed, top corner. It's 2-2.
The Scottish Football Podcast from BBC Sport Scotland.
Welcome one and all to the Scottish Football Podcast with today, in no particular order, Scott Allan, former Celtic, Dundee United and Hibs midfielder. That's, by my estimation, 4 current Premiership clubs, and weighing in with a total of 6 now in the Premiership, Lee Miller, Falkirk, Kilmarnock, Hearts, Aberdeen, Livingston and Dundee United on the big man's CV. Like that 1986 film we are all about last night, but instead of Demi Moore and Rob Lowe, we have Scott and Lee. Enough with the outdated cultural references. Last night, 5 games, 13 goals, but only 1 winner, Celtic. Scott 1-0 at home to Dundee. A farewell speech from the now former interim manager Martin O'Neill, who makes way for the incoming boss Wilfried Nancy. And that was probably the second least dramatic match of the night.
It was. Listen, there was moments of quality, but the game never really caught fire, did it? Listen, Martin O'Neill and Celtic won't be complaining. They maintain that kind of run that they're on domestically. Now joint top with Hearts with a game in hand, with Hearts to come at the weekend. But there was some individual performances that were standout for Celtic. At the same time, thought Dundee contributed to a decent game. They made it difficult at times and still had a couple of chances of their own. So, listen, Celtic won't be complaining come the end of the season if they were to be sitting top of the tree. But for me, Hatate was standout player for Celtic again last night.
Story of the night, though, Lee, is Martin O'Neill. He bows out with an impeccable record 100% win rate in the Premiership with Celtic. Wilfried Nancy starts today. You just wonder about the timing of this, though.
Yeah, no, I think
O'Neill's done so well, and then the new guy comes in.
I think the fans will probably think, you know what, give Martin O'Neill it till, I don't know, the end of the season potentially, because he has got a feel-good factor back there. Scott mentions Hatate, the difference in Hatate from Martin O'Neill. And I don't know what he said or what he's done, if he's told him to play a freedom or whatever it is, but he's been exceptional. The last few games you've seen a different player, but that's the talking point of the night. Like, all other games, goals, obviously apart from Falkirk Motherwell, but Celtic get the job done. 1-0, tick, another tick, on to the next one, whereas the rest of the games are draws and teams are slipping up. And it's interesting, very interesting, because that's what champions do. They just tick away, they just kind of grind results out. It wasn't an emphatic victory, but it's a victory at the end of the day.
So no pressure, Scott, and the new guy. In you come, starting a Thursday, Sunday you're at home at Hearts, Thursday home to Roma in the Europa League, and then on the following Sunday, League Cup final, all in the space of a week.
Huge week. And that, listen, the timing is really intriguing when you look at it. I think Martin O'Neill personalities came in and made a real difference within some of the players. Look at Maeda, Yang, the Freedom in particular, all contributing, all look as if they get an extra spring in their step, but there's no getting away from me. I just wonder if it would have been best to leave it another week. And I know you have things in place, but I'm sure you can't tell me the Celtic board couldn't have, just give it a week and then you come in clean slate after the back of a League Cup final. Roma, which will be a difficult game, and Hearts on Sunday will be very intriguing, just because Hearts are trying to find that win again, trying to get back to winning ways. And there was certain parts of Celtic's game last night where Hearts will feel we can cause them problems. But It's a tough 3 games. It's not a tough 3 games if you win them all, but it's a tough 3 games for Wilfred, for Wilfred Nancy if he wasn't able to produce some really good victories in there. But at the same time, as much as the Celtic fans listen, we know the love they have for Martin O'Neill, and you got to give huge credit to him and his staff for how they've been the glue for me since, especially during a really turbulent time at Celtic between fans and boards and performances on the pitch just aren't what we expect of some of these players that we've seen over the last few years. But for me, Celtic have to look forward. Obviously, January's coming up. It's going to be a huge talking point. It has been a huge talking point when you talk about the recruitment. So I think the Celtic board are probably looking at it saying they need to get the manager in, see where he thinks he needs strengthening, and looking to get reinforcements in come January, because it's what's ultimately caused all the bad feeling at the club at the moment.
He's come in, Lee, Nancy, and he's already promising exciting, attacking, winning football. You can guarantee the first and the second, but the third element there's no guarantee.
There's no guarantee. How many managers have come in and said, I'm going to play a certain way, and they don't. Sometimes they don't have the players, but I think Celtic have got the players to play that way. They just, for some reason, they haven't hit the heights this season, but Martin O'Neill's kind of turned things around, and he's left the club in a better way than when he took over. So Nancy will come in and do his thing, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what kind of style of play he plays and how he comes across to the press. And yeah, it's interesting times, but like Scott says, it's brilliant if you win the next few games. Happy days, but see if he doesn't. that'll be interesting review.
What did he say, Scott, in the team talk before the Hearts game? Did he just say, keep it going, lads?
Well, I think it's difficult to come in looking Thursday. Most of the players won't train today. So ultimately, you've got Friday, Saturday to get some work into the players, especially off the back of some of the performances. You would be very surprised if he went in and made drastic changes. I just feel he's got players who he's going to have to rely on now performing. I spoke about Hatate. Lee also touched on Hatate. Some difference when you have a player of that quality and can play the variety of passes. He's now got runners. When you've got a player like that, you have to have runners. Allow him to find you, and that is what Celtic are now doing. Done it on Sunday, second half against St Mirren. Hatate was a standout in terms of the incisive passes that we see him play, and they're going to be big players. It's going to be a big week for Wilfred Nancy and Celtic. If they were to come through it with victories, then that style of football that you're then trying to put into Celtic, which we've heard about, and I've spoken about it quite a few times now, what I've heard about Wilfred Nancy from his Columbus team, it could be very exciting times for Celtic, but at the same time, very difficult for us to sit here and compare the environment of the MLS to manage Celtic. So that's the unknown, because the environment is completely different from how it is in the MLS.
So Celtic and Hearts go into that game at Celtic Park on Sunday, level in points at the top of the table. That's because Celtic won last night. Hearts drew 1-1 with Killie, a Shankland opener and a stoppage time equaliser from Bruce Anderson. What is it, 1 win in 6? But I was having a look at the bigger picture, and that's 13 games into the season. They've only lost 1 in regulation time, that is. Lost 1-0 to Aberdeen. They did lose to penalties on St Mirren in the League Cup, but their record overall is pretty impressive.
Yeah, their record is good, and I think if you dissect it and you spread those games over the full season so far, yes, you would be happy. 6 games. They've just hit a wee speed bump in the road. They just need to iron things out. If they got that win last night, like Celtic, just a 1-0, on to the next one, into the game weekend with Celtic, it'd have been a different story. But to lose a goal in that fashion so near the end of the game, when you should just be closing out the game, it will really disappoint Derek McInnes, because he has got a really good squad there, but they've just hit that wee rocky patch and come out the other side. If they can get some sort of result on Sunday, then it might pick them up again. Everybody was calling it, everybody said the wheel's going to fall off. Aberdeen done it last season, and to be fair, I thought because Derek McInnes is such an experienced manager, he's been in the league for so long, he'll just keep continuing it and try and grind out these 1-0s, but it seems to have kind of crashed a wee bit. We'll see what happens.
Oh, that sounds quite severe there. Lee saying crashed a wee bit. Scott. The wheels have come off
Absolutely
the
not.
bogey. Are
And
you quite as extreme?
people
It's just a tyre.
we're stuck at the side of the motorway with a flat tyre. The A is on the way. No. Wheels have a wee stop.
But it was an uncharacteristic mistake from a Hearts goalkeeper last night, and Derek McInnes afterwards saying, "Look, it was a mistake."
He's been excellent since he came in. Listen, Polworth gets the shot away. Surface was zippy last night. You would expect him to save it. At the same time, got to credit Bruce Anderson because he follows in like all good strikers do. Done the same with his penalty at the weekend against Dundee United. And by the way, Kelly had chances within the game. Hearts did have most of the control, but Kelly did push. There was a bit of grittiness about them. That was the game last night. I think off the back of the Motherwell game, which was always going to be difficult for Hearts. That was a home game. I think fans were expecting the 3 points, and I think Derek McInnes would expect if his team turned up and performed the way he knows they can, they would have got 3 points. But Kilmarnock made it stuffy and still posed a threat at the same time. But like I said, I think the one thing we can all agree on is Hearts were always going to have a period within the season where they wouldn't pick up 3 points. They're not getting beat every week. They just aren't getting the points. And there was chances where they could have seen the game out a little bit more comfortably than they had to. But I think Derek McInnes touched on it last night. Still be able to defend a 1-0, and that is very true. I think seeing him over the years and the things that he would expect and demand from his team, there would be parts that he would be disappointed in. But at the same time, listen, I get a chance to put it right at Celtic Park. Will that be the game it reignites them? Could well be. New manager come in, good feel at Celtic, adds a different aspect to it. Tactically adds a different aspect to it. Yes, we all expect him not to make many changes, but he could do personnel wise as well. So it's the game with Derek McInnes will be really looking forward to, I'd imagine.
I couldn't believe my ears last night, Lee. At the end of that game, watching it on Sports Scene last night, I could hear. I thought, is that booing at the end from the Hearts fans?
Yeah, they're up the top end of the league. They're the team to be shot at. Everybody's going to raise their game. And to be fair, like Scott says, Kilmarnock had their chances. And they're going to make it gritty for every team because they need every single point. There's teams down the bottom end of the league that need points. Kelly have went, 8 games without a win? So they need to grind out points somewhere. And that's what obviously ultimately happened last night.
Just finally on Hearts, it was Anne Budge's last game as the Hearts chair. What an impact she's had on the club, Lee.
Yeah, incredible. She's done so many things over the years. Obviously, she would have wanted a victory. It's just one of those things. That's what happens in football. But no, she's been a breath of fresh air to Hearts, and I think she's kicked them on so much in the last few years.
So let's talk about another couple of the draws last night. We'll start with Rangers and Dundee United at Tannadice. Rangers scoring a late penalty to earn a 2-2 draw in what was, Scott, a heart in the mouth encounter, cracking goals, crackpot defending and controversy. Firstly, over the Rangers penalty that was awarded right at the death to earn them that point for a foul on Aarons. What do you make of that?
Listen, I think from what the bar is, we have to go on week in, week out, which isn't always reliable, isn't always along the same lines. I think it probably is a penalty. I think Will Ferry goes to do the right thing, clear the ball, and Aarons comes on that blind side. And once you give the referee a decision to make, and there's a contact and he points to the spot, I can't see VAR changing it. It's whether David Dickinson doesn't point to the spot overturned it, probably not, I would say. You see these sort of ones given quite a lot when the opponent comes in at the blind side because you can't see him and you go to clear him, there's a slight bit of contact. What wasn't malicious, wasn't lots of contact, but he did catch him. So I think it's an interesting one, and it's one we could see next week that's maybe not given as a penalty.
Inconsistency.
We'll probably speak
You're
about
saying
other
there's
decisions.
inconsistency, Scott? Is that what you're
I think we've just got to live with the inconsistency, haven't we?
We'll rewind to a wee bit earlier in the game. There was a handball by Fernandez, not penalised this time. Did you catch that, Lee?
Yes, I did. At the time, I thought
Fernandez.
it's the way the game is now. I think that's a penalty. I definitely think it's a penalty. You can see him pulling his arm away from the ball when it hits it. You could see in his face the way he blasted the ball away. Oh no. I'm going to get pulled back for this. But like we spoke about, it's inconsistency. I think the Max Aarons ones, I think, is a penalty. I don't think there's any question on that. We see it so many times. I think dead it to Max Aarons. He gets himself in there and he's sharp to get in there. Paul Ferry doesn't see him, clears the ball. But no, I think Dundee United should be hard done by, shall we say. And if that goes, was that to make it 3-1? If that goes 3-1, to me the game's dead.
Yeah, Jim Goodwin didn't seem too bothered after the game, Scott, talking about the controversial incidents.
Probably hadn't watched him back yet.
No, he was very calm though. He was very calm. I thought, wow, because at the end of the game, when the final whistle goes, he's distraught, and I felt so bad for him. His team put so much into the game.
We don't just want to talk about incidents, controversial incidents, because there's some cracking goals in the game as well, Scott.
It was actually a fantastic game. And the controversy in the defending actually added to it being a really exciting game of football. I'm not getting away from that. From a United perspective, fantastic. From a perspective, there's just so many errors and bad decisions within one phase of play. For me, I thought Bajrami had a really good game. I thought he had moments at the weekend against Falkirk. He's coming into his own, wanting to take that creative mantle up. And I do feel that's an area where Rangers need that. I definitely thought he showed some of that last night. Sapsford as well, for a fantastic finish, good composure, just lifts it over. Butland, again, defending not great, as I'm sure we'll speak on. But listen, that adds to what it was as a spectacle. Yes, we're talking about decisions made, but it was a really good game of football in terms of end-to-end stuff. Both teams trying to create. Rangers, first and foremost, I think it was the most creative they've been in weeks. And fans have been asking for that, for Rangers to put balls in the box and ask questions of the opposition, and they certainly did that. I think ultimately looking back on it, a draw is probably a result.
That's 2 draws in the spin for Rangers, Lee, after a winning start from Danny Rule. Does it look as though the new boss bounce effect is maybe wearing off a wee bit?
Potentially. I still don't think he knows his strongest team, and he'll be desperate for the January window to come, but I can only imagine he'll need to get players out before he gets the players in. So I think that's going to be a difficult call, because if you're a Rangers player in there, you're on really good money. I don't think you're going elsewhere for the same money. So that'll be interesting. He will have identified.
It would need to be loans, wouldn't it, Leeway? Some sort of contribution. And you would expect maybe 2 or 3 of these sort of ones for games.
Yeah, you can't carry a squad that big. It's very difficult. And then it's trying to get the right ones in as well. I don't know. It'll be interesting, but I think you've seen he get out of jail a wee bit last night with the point. Yes, a point would have been a fair result, but Jim Goodwin goes into the last few minutes thinking 3 points. He needed the 3 points last night.
You could say St Mirren got out of jail as well last night with a 99th minute equaliser from Jamaican defender Richard King. 3-3 it finished at Pittodrie. I suppose that the narrative from the St Mirren perspective could have been about another goal chalked off. Scott Tanser coming back into the team, scoring, but penalised for a foul on Mitov. But instead it's about a valiant draw with that stoppage time equaliser, Scott.
Yeah, listen, the Tanser one on Mitov for me, not a penalty. Lee would,
a foul, you mean?
A foul, sorry. And I'm assuming Lee, there's no way he thinks that's a foul. No way.
Do you know what? You threw me one there because I did see it and I thought, foul right away. I'm all about, I think goalies get overprotected, but it does give him a nudge in the back. It's the way the game's went.
Oh, wow. What's happened?
I thought you were going to stand up.
Here you go. It's all about opinions. But I was just wondering, before I was at Stephen Robinson's pre-match media conference there the other day and talking about St Mirren's predicament and the situation that Hibs were in last year, and it struck me that Hibs' season seemed to pivot on a 3-3 draw with Aberdeen. After that, they just went on this incredible run. And so Stephen Robinson will be hoping after that draw last night that St Mirren's league season is transformed.
Yeah, listen, I think for me, the worry, and it's purely based on the body of work that Stephen Robinson's done over at St Mirren over the last few years. The worry would be the amount of goals they're conceding. There's no getting away from that. And I understand the challenge. He's trying to replace some of your best players every other season, which he's had to do. But it would be very disappointing, some of the goals are losing. There's no getting away from that. The positive from last night, they scored goals. I think he'd spoke about it. They've had some really good performances and not good results. But off the back, that's them conceded 6 goals over the last 2 games between Dundee and Aberdeen. Teams who aren't known for free-flowing football, I think that will be a slight cause for concern for Stephen Robinson. At the same time, they've got a League Cup final to look at. Could that be a springboard for them to start firing again? But there's no getting away from it. I think the job that Stephen Robinson's done over the last few years has been absolutely outstanding. But this would be something that he would be looking to address, because his teams are kind of prided on the fact that they defend well, and they defend well as a unit, and they make it really difficult for you to score goals. So positives, they scored goals, but they'll no getting away from the fact that that'll be something he wants to fix, and fix very soon.
St Mirren went 1-up in that game, Lee, through a penalty for a handball.
Yeah, I think overall, see when you look at St Mirren, they're normally a very difficult team to play against. They're really well organised. Stephen Robinson's done an incredible job there. Obviously, getting into that cup final, have players kind of come off a wee bit to save themselves for the cup final? I don't know. But Scott says they've always kind of been in games. They don't get battered. Yeah, they get beat 3-1 last week from Dundee. I get that, right? But they don't normally get battered in games. They've always been kind of up on games, and they lose silly goals. They have got a playing, and it's a credit to Stephen Robinson for the way they've done that. And like Scott said, he's replaced players year on, every position. It's all big, strong. They can play as well. They can really play. I watched them against Motherwell in the cup semi, and everybody thought we were going to pass them off the pitch, score free-flowing goals. But they bullied them. They actually bullied them, but played good stuff at the same time. So it's an interesting one, because he could go on that run. He could go on that run with 3 each. Maybe that's the springboard he needs for the team, and that cup final's coming up. So there'll be players wanting to play out their skin, try and get in that team.
Aberdeen on a decent wee run, Scott. They'll be disappointed they didn't close that game out and take the 3 points. But what are they now? 7 games unbeaten all competitions?
Yeah, 7 games unbeaten. I think obviously he had a change of shape. Jimmy Talleen, he hasn't picked the same team every week. I think you see last night, Nisbet starts the game. Had a couple of chances I think that Nizzy would probably expect to score. Lazetic comes on and has a real impact in the game. For me, looking at Aberdeen, I think Carlson's been a good signing, but you're not seeing that consistency week in, week out. But ultimately, there was a lot of pressure on Jimmy Talleen at the start of the season. Performances weren't there. He's stabilised it, and then they got the goals last night. At the same time, I think they'll be extremely disappointed with some of the goals that they lost. There's no getting away from that. I think there was one mix-up between the two defenders, and then Ayunga just slots it through Mitov's legs. So both managers in that game last night had their frustrations with defensive things and thought that they could have came away for the 3 points. But at the same time, there's lots to like that. The third goal for me is fantastic from an Aberdeen perspective. Lazetic's goal was a lot of good football, and Stuart Armstrong puts in a fantastic ball, and Lazetic takes his chance. So Aberdeen are moving in the right direction.
We started this podcast today with a bang. We'll end on a whimper, because we'll talk about the other game last night. It promised so much. It delivered hee-haw in terms of goals, at least. But a point apiece for Falkirk and Motherwell. No many chances in this one, Lee, but Motherwell...
Yeah, I think me and Scott spoke. We witnessed obviously the game at Fir Park with Motherwell Hibs. It was incredible. Best game of football I've seen for a long time. But ultimately, Motherwell struggle to score goals, don't they? Yes, they've got Maswinisi that will score, but they're just coming up shy. All their good play needs to be finished off for a goal or two. And that's where they seem to be at just now. Their good football's brilliant to watch, but they just seem to be missing that wee bit in front of goal.
2 draws in recent days for Falkirk, Scott, against Rangers and Motherwell. Teams above them in the league, you have to say, decent.
I think it's better than decent. I think what John McGlynn's done with that Falkirk side, too, a lot of the players that came through from League One, Championship, straight up, there's a real unity within the squad, and they look to play. What was interesting about last night was he left all his wingers on the bench till the 60th minute.
That was a surprise, eh?
It was for John McGlynn, because I think the challenge as a manager is to always try your football against their football, but at the same time you got to give them huge credit because it really disrupted the fluidity of how Motherwell play. It was a clear plan to really put the two central midfielders who Motherwell play through under real pressure and looking to carry that game plan to the 60th minute. It was really, tactically it was really interesting, and John McGlynn after 60 minutes makes the 4 changes, puts a bit more width and pace in the team. Couldn't quite get the winner, but listen, he obviously learned his lesson the last time they played against Motherwell, because the first 45 minutes they had a torrid time, and then second half went out man for man, pretty similar to what we've seen last night, but were excellent. But what a job John McGlynn's done. Some of the players that have come up been excellent. 2 midfielders, Tate and Spencer, for me, they're just, you see them week in, week out, and the Premiership is actually getting the best out of them, which is really interesting. So Falkirk and Motherwell, the 2 teams for me, yes, it did promise. It promised
2 best
so
footballing
much,
teams.
but the 2 best footballing teams, but the 2 managers deserve huge credit.
Yeah.
That's what we love about football, the great unpredictability of things. But predictably, I'm afraid I'm going to call time on today's proceedings now because we've kind of run out of it. Many thanks to Scott and Lee for their contributions today. It's much appreciated. And thanks, of course, folks, most of all to you for listening. Remember, we're here with new episodes of the Scottish Football Podcast, bright, breezy and early every day. So to make sure you don't miss out, subscribe on BBC Sounds and have push notifications turned on in your phone. From Lee, Scott and me, take care and enjoy your day.
On BBC Sounds. From life aboard a Russian submarine to chairman of Hearts Football Club.
At this stage, he was the hero.
But as his controversial decisions escalated...
They said, we're going to sack George. And I'm going, you can't do this.
How did Vladimir Romanov go from Hearts saviour to a wanted man?
He caused a whole load of chaos and havoc.
Romanov, Tsar of Hearts. Listen now on BBC Sounds.